Shalom and welcome to all of you. We are so thankful that you here. We are the Hebrew Sisters. And today we're going to pick up with the story about that wonderful festival. It's called what?
Hanukkah.
Ah, yes, Hanukkah, the Feast of
Dedication.
and the Feast of Lights. We love this holiday season, and we hope that you will too. We also hope if you're enjoying these teachings that you'll hit the subscribe button as we continue to share with you about the names of God, the culture of the Bible, and the beautiful Hebrew language. It's for all of us.
It is.
It's for believers, not just one group of people, but it's for the one new man in this wonderful season that we're all living in. Speaking of seasons, we're going to return to the story today of what is known as the Maccabean Revolt. Now, this is accurate history. And some Bibles, there is a couple of books that describe this history. It's known as 1st and 2nd Maccabees, and it's also known as apocryphal literature. Some Bibles don't contain those books, but some do. And if you're interested in reading the story of the Maccabees, you can buy that separate through any bookstore or order it any way that you get your books. But it's important that you get books 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, I'm like, 4 more books you got to read, but they're short. They're only a few chapters in each book, but it tells the full story. So today I'm going to pick up where we left off. Antiochus, sometimes he's called Antiochus, but his real name is Antiochus Epiphanes, which means God made manifest. Uh-oh, we have a real problem because Antiochus hated Israel and the people of Israel. You know why he hated them? Because not all of them would just conform, even at the threat of death. There was a group of priests and a group of people, small, but a group of them nonetheless, who said, you know what? I love the Lord with all my being. I love him with all my heart, soul, and strength. So I'm not going to conform, no matter what. And Antiochus tightened down those rules. He went to a school, a priest named Eliezer. He had a pretty large school of about 300 young boys at a time, and then it dwindled down. But anyway, Eliezer was the rabbi of the school, and he was a priest. The guards rode in one day and told Eliezer to come outside with all of his children. So they all went outside, and the Greek Syrian guards said to him, and there were several of the guards there, if you'll just eat this bite of pork, it was pork, then we won't hurt you. We'll allow you to go on and live your life and continue to teach the children. Eliezer was a priest. And he said, you know what? It's commanded in the Word of God that that's not for the people of God. And he was reciting, of course, the teachings of clean and unclean food from the book of Leviticus. Eliezer said, I'm just not going to do that, because he knew that if he gave in, it would set a precedence for his children and the rest of the priests. And he knew that more than likely they were going to kill him anyway. And he didn't want to enter into heaven losing his witness with the people. The Lord would have welcomed him because there's grace and there's mercy. I mean, that's who Adonai is, grace and mercy.
Right.
But the children and the rest of the priesthood who've been standing strong against this, he didn't want them to have the wrong message. And so he said, I'm not going to do that. Well, the Greeks had put another set of rules. No more reading the Bible. Can you imagine? No more prayer. You can't pray. Can you imagine this? No more keeping the Sabbath. And if you do, they had a very brutal way of convincing you not to. They would take, if you had a baby, they would take your baby, kill the baby, and hang it around the mother's neck. I'm cleaning the story up a bit for our precious audience out there. But all these edicts were there. And Eliezer said, I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to pray to my God. I'm going to keep the 10 Commandments. And I'm going to speak Hebrew. Well, it didn't go well for Eliezer. They took him out and slowly and methodically tortured him to death in front of the children. So word got to Eliezer's wife, and her name was Hannah. And she had 7 sons. And they came to Hannah and said, your husband would not obey us. And so now your children are going to pay that price as well. So Hannah did what she could to talk them out of it, but it wouldn't work. And they had heard that Hannah had been keeping the Sabbath and praying to God, to Adonai. They started with the eldest son, and they tortured and killed each of the children until it got down to the last one, the youngest one, her sweet, precious little boy. She turned to him as he was terrified and crying and weeping, and she said to him in Hebrew, which the Greek soldiers who were standing right there couldn't understand. She said to him, don't be afraid, my precious. Join your father and your brothers in heaven, and Mama will be there soon. Let's not give in. Let's remember Daddy. Let's remember that God made us as a sign in the earth, that God is with us no matter what, and that his ways are higher than our ways, and that if we preserve his truth, there will be a generation after us that will rise up and find their faith in the one true God. And not only the people of Israel, but people all over the world. This message will spread to the world that there is a God who is above all gods, and that he loves us with an everlasting love. Well, they did worse to that little boy than the others, and he went to join them in heaven. The Syrians kept Hannah, the mother, alive on purpose. This whole event happened, if you've ever been to Jerusalem, right outside of the Jaffa Gate, in that area there, right in between Jaffa Gate and David's Citadel. What a story of a courageous woman. She's been my hero my whole life, not because I want to die, but because of her faith. I can have faith today. It's like the 3 Hebrew children who were in the fire, in Nebuchadnezzar's fire, and they said, you can burn us alive and turn the heat up. We're not giving in. And then the 4th man showed up. I believe the 4th man showed up for Hannah that day.
Every time I hear these stories, Yana, I think, this is why Adonai chose Israel, because they have such inward strength inside of them. And the stories, you can read about them in the books of the Maccabees. There are several others, but one of my most favorite, and this is why it's called the Book of the Maccabees, is about Judah Maccabee, Yehuda Maccabee and his sons, and how everything began when they came into the village. And the priests that were in the village were performing those things around the altar.
Well, that is the story that we're going to pick up with next week. You don't want to miss it. And so, as we conclude today with Hannah and the 7 sons, something is going on in this world. There's so much pressure to give in to the fear we're given every day over the events in the world. But have no fear. The same God that was with Hannah, the same God that was with the children, the same God that was with Eliezer is also with you. This story of Hannah and Eliezer and their children led up to the stories of the Maccabean Revolt. It's accurate history. It's more than stories. And we will be with you again next week to pick this up and to share with you about what happened because of Eliezer and Hannah and their faith. The Maccabean Revolt happened, and that brought us to the Feast of Hanukkah. Wow, what a special time. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to say for now, we bless you. Oh, we love you.
Mhm.
And we are the
The
Hebrew
Hebrew Sisters.